All right, we're live here in the Connie Donahue Gymnasium on the grounds of Torrington High School. Jim Gaffney from Litchfield County Sports here, and we've got two fine gentlemen from the Board of Education here. To our left, Gary Eucalitto, and to our right, Armand Maniccia. And we're going to talk about the new school project, right? And did I get the name anywhere close? Was I close?
It's Maniccia.
Maniccia. See? Gary, no matter how many times you told me, it didn't make any difference. Anyway, we'll keep going. Torrington High School, on November 3rd, we're going to be asked as voters to approve a referendum to build a new high school, middle school, that is going to run in the area of $159 million. And we're going to talk about what's going to happen with that. And Armand, let's start a little bit with you on really how this genesis occurred starting a couple of years ago.
So a couple of years ago, we were looking at a lot of things. We were looking at students leaving the district once they got to high school to go to surrounding schools, which are actually 712 schools, or other places. So we decided to look at programming, so that's where we started. We started looking at the programming that we offer at Torrington High School and what can we offer that would be more in line with today's world and going into the future. So an ad hoc committee was formed with people from the community, from within the schools, parents, board members. It was a large group that started approximately 2 years ago. And businesses were actually asked to be part of it in some way, shape, or form, and they gave us some insight onto what they need in the surrounding area of Torrington and in Torrington of what businesses need out of workers. So that was all put into our design of the programming for the high school. Mm-hmm. Then from there, after looking at what programming we wanted to offer at the high school, we looked at facilities. How can we best deliver this education in the facilities that we have, or can we do it with our facilities? Then we looked at the school itself, and it's a approximately 1960 building with a couple of small renovations done to the school, and our thought was, well, maybe we can renovate it to fit our programming and also to renovate it up to codes and things like that. And come to find out, after all our hard work, and not only ours but other people's hard work, we found that it's actually cheaper to actually build a new school, and it will be better for our programming at the high school and middle school going forward. So that's where we came up with the high school renovation.
And this would be one superior campus where we would have Torrington High School, Torrington Middle School, 7th and 8th grade on a separate secure wing. We've heard a lot of comments on that, on hey, having 7th and 8th graders. It's not. It's done at Gilbert, it's done at Lewis Mills, it's done at Chicago, it's done in a lot of different places where they have their own bus routes, their own entrances. There will be shared spaces, but not at similar schedules. They're not all eating lunch at the same time, whether it's something in the auditorium, it's going to be safe and secure. 21st century security, obviously, with these buildings. You have the brand new, I still say brand new track and field because after 6 years it still looks kind of brand new. And one of the things I like best about this project is it being built right out behind the home bleachers where the baseball practice field is. I'm a Met fan, so I go with Citi Field. I watch Citi Field be built from Shea Stadium. Now, how about these kids? They're going to be able to watch from their classrooms their new school being built. No disruption in the classrooms, and Armand will talk about that in a minute. And then in 2024, right before summertime, regular school is done. During the summertime, the transition, the kids go right in. There's no missing of any kind of classes, and also not any kind of working through a period. And you are a special education teacher at Naugatuck, and you went through what you talked about, a 15-phase, 15, that's a big number, yeah, of kids having to move around while they redid Naugatuck High School. What were some of those challenges of doing it that way?
Some of the challenges were just minimal challenges, like rerouting the students because they couldn't use certain hallways, so you had to reroute traffic flow, so you had large groups of students moving through the hallways that weren't actually designed for that many number of students. Students were late to class. Students had, confused on how to get to class. The spaces that sometimes we went into weren't actually old classroom spaces or new classroom spaces. They were actually, four walls of sheetrock. So the spaces were not conducive to education at all. Many of the spaces, at least that I was in, did not have any windows at all. Poor lighting because, like I said, they were like sheetrock walls, and that was it, with maybe whatever lighting was in that area at that time, old lighting, and there might have been maybe one fixture.
Okay.
There was also there was the construction issues with dust and things like that. Safety issues, which you always had to make sure that there wasn't any construction going on in certain areas where there would be flow of people, whether it's staff or students.
Okay.
So that can always be an issue, and it's always a concern. Especially at the high school, students are older. They tend to have their own minds sometimes, and sometimes they go off and not doing it to be harmful or malicious, but they walk through areas which they're not supposed to because it's a shortcut.
Right.
It's not necessarily behavior; it's just safety that we're concerned about.
So in your mind, the repair end of it would be a lot more challenging here at Torrington High School and probably take a lot longer, correct?
Yes, it would take a lot longer. It would be a huge disruption that I would not want any student or staff to go through. From what I've went through and what I've seen, if we could do it more cost-effective and safer and more convenient way, and we can do it in this way.
And that's where we talk with you, Gary, is that as a real estate developer around the state of Connecticut, when you look at a deal like this, talk to me about what you see as the positives.
Well, for Torrington, the positive. I'll back up. Joining the Board of Education 2 years ago, the first thing we started discussing was exactly what Armand just described, the ad hoc committee looking into what we have to do at this school. I wasn't aware of all the issues here. And then you dig in and you start to realize that we don't offer anything that will compete with our surrounding communities to attract business for kids. We're losing kids by the dozens, 140 some kids, I think,
Somewhere around there, yeah.
to the tune of millions of dollars that we have to pay for.
Okay.
Other businesses expressed the concern over our inability to attract businesses and families because we don't have the facility at the high school that will keep our children here. The discussion over 7 through 12 was a discussion I listened to, but I'm not an expert. The educators and the people who designed the buildings provided better insight. I started to listen to the conversations about what other schools are doing it and what the advantages were. And in this case, you look at the efficiencies. One of the things as a board we're trying to do is allocate resources better. And in this case, the savings alone that will be presented later on, but by doing this here, we get to use the middle school for another purpose, and at the same time build this school so that we can bring kids from 7th to 8th grade immediately into the school without their parents or the kids thinking, well, there's better alternatives out there. Once they get into the sports programs here, once they join the team, once they get involved in the school, as many other schools have found, they typically stay in the school. This building, one of the things, I've been to the Naugatuck School before when it was being renovated and the kids swam against them. That school had a number of phases, like you mentioned. This school here, the entire curtain wall has to come off of this, and that's the exterior frame of the building. It has to come off because it's loaded with asbestos and other things that cause serious abatement concerns. The windows are from the 60s. There's PCBs, and this isn't anything that's not been made public recently.
Yep.
That whole curtain wall, the entire perimeter of the building will have to come off. the impact on the children and the number of phases that we'll face here will far exceed what Naugatuck faced. Because they have a block building down there. I think the whole building has a block excluded. There was some patching and repairing of the blocks. I read the online description of the work. The scope of work here is far different, far different. So we have the issue here in this building that, as a developer, or anybody probably wouldn't want to take on, given the risk and the uncertainty.
Right.
And in the end, for less money, and Armand is speaking the truth here. We went with the best option at the best price. We all thought it might be another choice.
Yep.
The first choice of repair and maintenance just isn't an option. This school cannot be repaired and maintained. You know, if anybody wants to come up here and take a walk through, like I did last week again, it's an embarrassment to the community. Torrington needs to invest in its school system. And we don't have a capital improvement plan in this town. Many other cities, small cities have them. We haven't done it yet. But we don't have a way to plan for those kinds of expenses.
And go to that a little bit, and we'll go back to the middle school, because what we hear sometimes is that the 7th and 8th graders in this building, like we had talked about, will be secure. And also, there isn't that fear of coming off the hill to the high school. You know, they'll already be on campus. So I think the parents of most will be more comfortable, because it's not the illusion of what a high school is, right? I always kind of tend to laugh at that anyway, but I mean, you know, people's concerns are their concerns. You know, and the price tag, right? Like on November 3rd, on everybody's ballot, it's going to say, would you like to approve a $159 million school? And it lists it as the high school, the middle school, replacing the Board of Education building, everything that would be on campus. We are not voting for 4 different places. It's just how the wording is going to be on the ballot, and we'll try to get word out to people more about what they're going to see on the ballot, because it's just a yes or no question legally. So at first, COVID, we're in the middle of COVID, people are like, why would we build a new school in the middle of COVID? Well, we're really not, right? And we'll talk about that, you know, a little bit. The 2021 is really just planning, right? That's when it kind of goes out to bid. That's when it goes to the state legislator. We get on a list. Then we hopefully are approved. You know, we're not talking anything until probably 2022. And, you know, if the numbers that you will see in flyers that are going out to every household over the next week, if we go with the new school, we get an estimated share back from the state of $85 million, leaving us with $74 million as taxpayers. If we do the maintenance, it's estimated to be $112. 33, almost $34 million back. We would be $4 million higher at $78 million. Just on a basic shopping level, if we go new, it's going to cost us less than, you know, there really isn't an option of going no, right? Because no still means we're going to have to do something if we vote no. It's not as if we can just stay status quo here. So there is a potential savings of $4 million for going new.
The other thing that we're going to save on, which is going to, which cost analysis being done now, is energy efficiency. The new school will save on our energy costs going forward, so that's another savings. Which you know, currently, because of the age of the high school and the lack of renovation of things like windows and you know, modern roofing and things like that, we spend a lot of money on energy costs. So this building will be up to grade, you know, up to standards, you know, the current standards. So we're going to save tremendously on energy costs, and like I said, there's a cost analysis being done right now on the savings of energy. So that's going to be a savings to taxpayers every year. So that's something else to think about.
Okay.
Well, one of the other things which I didn't bring up, we should have mentioned quickly, part of this is also driven by the state and their desire for 21st century learning, the types of education they want the students to have access to, and how they're pushing for consolidation. For more economies, they're giving most of the money. They want consolidation, and that was also another consideration. Consolidating 7 through 12, we then moved, I think, 5th and 6th to the middle school was the plan. 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yep.
Right. But we also then have the ability to close another school. Now, the next school that is on the list for upgrade is Forbes. It's the oldest school has a lot of issues. Well, we then have the ability to say, okay, we don't need, and this is possible, we discussed it at the meeting, this may be the school that we can close and create more economies of scale by turning the school back over to the city. The city owns these buildings. We don't own these buildings. So we don't have the ability to make decisions as to whether or not we repair the roof, replace the roof, fix the floors. You know, that money comes from the city because they own the buildings. We don't have a budget line item for capital improvements. Our budget line item is simply for repairs. And those ongoing repairs are simple repairs. But this allows the city, or the Board of Ed and the city, to look toward consolidating as the state is required. And at the same time, we're also closing down the Midgeon Avenue Administrative Building. That building is 100 and some years old.
Yeah.
It pumps out heat out all the windows. The heating cost, the maintenance cost, it's in the mid six figures. $150,000 roughly, I think, is the budget to maintain that building. That gets closed and gets put up here. So it's a good combination of uses and resources. At the same time, giving the kids better tech wing, better, in 7th and 8th grade, better band ability, because we'll have a new area for the band to practice. What we have here doesn't meet any of the requirements for, for students to practice. We have one of the best music programs, and your kids have been in it, music programs in the country. It gives our kids the ability to compete with every other small city and large city in the state.
Right.
I don't know the city in the state. I've done business in almost 60 communities in Connecticut in the last 8 years. I don't know the city that has a high school that's as well worn as this one.
Okay.
And
We definitely got every bit out of it that we could, right?
Yeah.
She don't owe us nothing.
I think the Vogel School was replaced when it was 58 years old.
Okay. All right.
In 1960, I think it opened in 1914, 1912.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is well worn.
Yeah. So 2 for the price of 1 almost. 2 schools for the price of 1. Middle school maintains at 4, 5, and 6. Take the Midgeon Avenue situation and put the Board of Education right on campus. Again, same thing. So many different schools. We are just getting to where so many other schools are around us. Bring it, all, right onto here. November 3rd, got to win by 1 vote, right? If we lose by 1 vote, it doesn't mean we can't do anything. Then we have to go to the repair end of it, right? And that will has to be done, right?
Correct. The repairs have to be done, and the repairs are, when you get into the repairs, there's very little that can actually be reimbursed from the state, because they're going to look at it as maintenance, and it's on the city to maintain the building.
Right.
And that's where we can submit for reimbursement, but the likelihood of getting a large percentage of reimbursement is almost 0. We won't get anything for a roof because that's on the city. We won't get anything for a heating system. We won't get any repairs for the plumbing. We won't get any money for the windows.
Yep.
So all that is going to be put on the city, which is very costly.
Now, 2 weeks ago, we opened in an oven, right, because it was 85, 90 degrees in this school, and in the wintertime, we freeze. It's original single-pane glass, right? So, I mean, two folks, Gary, wrap it up with, 2 citizens of Torrington who are worried about doing this right now. How do you ease their minds a little bit as far as why this is a perfect time to do it?
Well, the perfect time to do it for more than a couple of reasons, but number one, interest rates are very low. The state is eager to give us the money this year. They've already committed. The commitment's been made to move forward with this plan. If we wait, it doesn't mean that we're guaranteed to get the money the next time we submit. So we have to move now. Otherwise, there's no guarantee we're going to get the same percentage from the state or a commitment from the state saying that yes, we're going to move forward with it.
Okay.
But understand one thing. I mean, the $112 million option, I don't care what anybody says on Facebook, it's not enough. It's just not enough. It's not repair as much as it is. It's replacement of every bit of this building.
Right.
The cost and the time and the impact on the kids is unimaginable. The entire skin of the building, a $16 million heating system. How do we roll that out annually, $10 to $12 million a year,
Right.
on the back of the taxpayers? Nobody wants to think about it that way, but that's about 16 million a year for 10 years.
And let's talk about those numbers a little bit, because what we've seen for, for taxes was estimated for a $100,000 house, it would be $250 per year, and you would go up.
No, it is less.
It is less than 250.
It's less.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
Yep.
for a approximate $100,000 market value house, I believe that it's around $175 or so
Okay.
back to your
Wow.
tax rate.
Per month, per week, per day, cup of coffee, right?
Correct.
About half a cup of coffee.
Right. And again, big picture, in the real estate market, you put a gem like this in the middle of a city, and folks are starting to move in a little bit more. Our enrollment here at THS this year is up from last year, and we want those numbers to continue to go up. So if you have a crown jewel like this in your city, it's why I call it kind of a gimme, but I understand I'm a taxpayer too. I'm going to have to do it, but I try to look at the big picture numbers. But I think we have a very unique opportunity here in Torrington right now to really put ourselves, I'm not going to say put ourselves on the map, but because we're already here. There's already been outstanding gentlemen just like yourself who have come out of this high school, and everybody that I deal with at Litchfield County Sports. But we're just upgrading for this community and for these kids. You talk about that music program. They're in a closet, and they end up winning awards all over the country. So imagine the amphitheater. And we didn't talk a little bit, but there'll also be a restaurant with culinary.
Correct. The culinary class will have a restaurant that, obviously we're going to have to, hopefully the COVID thing will be
Yes,
over,
yes.
and people will be able to come in, and we'll be able to entertain people from the outside with the students actually cooking the meals, and then the people actually eating, sitting down, and eating at the restaurant. So that would be, a definite perk for people.
Definitely.
To come in and, eat and try out the food, and great for students, good experience for them.
So if folks are interested in more details, they can go to voteyesnewschool.com. I know that there's also a link to the building committee, so you can also find out what the folks on the building committee are doing. And if you pick up a copy of Litchfield County Sports Magazine right now, on the back there is all the information on a couple of different forums that are coming up. Nice, thank you. October 6th and October 29th, there'll be Zoom forums. It's still that COVID thing where we can't all sit together at City Hall, but I thought it was very productive last time, where folks ask your questions. Nobody's hiding anything. There's nothing underneath the table on this. This is just this much to repair it, this much to fix, to do it all over again. Let's just do it all over again and come away with a crown jewel. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Keep up the good work.